Okay, it looks like we are live. Welcome everyone to Her First Million, a YouTube channel tailored exclusively for women business owners in traditionally male-dominated fields like manufacturing, the trades, technologies, attorneys, and CPAs. I'm Amanda Bedell, your business chaos sorter, and with Her First Million, we're dedicated to providing 3 segments to transform your business. First is Love Your Numbers. This is where I failed in my first company. I'm here to unravel the complexities of financial management and demystify the numbers so that you can confidently optimize your business for greater profitability and make better decisions. Then the second segment is called Ask Amanda, where your questions take center stage and no question is off limits. So whether you slide into my DMs for privacy or share a comment in the below, I am thrilled to hear from you and share insights into the answers on how I can help steer your business in the right direction. And the segments I love the most are interviews. I get to sit down with trailblazing women who have excelled in industries traditionally dominated by men and others who support them in very interesting ways, including today. In these interviews, we unearth strategies, navigate through common and uncommon challenges, and uncover the well-kept secrets that have led to so many other exceptional women to that coveted million and beyond. And today, right here, right now, we're live to have one of those conversations with none other than Dan Koffel. Dan, thank you so much for being here.
My
And
pleasure.
here he is. Yes, he's a man. Remember, success leaves clues. So if we want to succeed, we want to talk to people who have paved the way, regardless of their gender. Dan comes to us as the founder and principal of 7 Summits Consulting, LLC, located right here in the beautiful Bend, Oregon area. And that's how we met. 7 Summits Consulting specializes in helping leaders to learn about, develop, and implement strategic plans for their companies. You know, I love the strategy. So, Dan, he was born and raised here in Oregon and began his career over 40 years ago working with his family construction business. In his late 30s, he left that family company and took his first position outside of being a field technician. So he started on the ground. Over the years, he's worked in various operational and leadership roles with construction companies, eventually landing as the chief executive officer of an almost $100 million enterprise. Cannot wait to unpack that with you. Throughout his career, Dan has had a privilege of learning directly from some of the best people in the construction industry, both organizations that employed him, but also in collaborations with clients, partners, and outside consulting firms. So he is a wealth of knowledge, everyone. I cannot wait for you to see how his natural systems thinker brain works. And he has this amazing, uncanny skill of seeing seemingly unrelated issues or events to form a part of a big picture. And that's all central to what he does now. So I've met Dan a couple of times now, quite a few now, and can't wait to share his story with you. He's inspiring, his insights energize, and I hope it energizes me, and I hope it energizes you. And his journey is a testament to the incredible potential that waits inside of each of you. So I'll stop talking and send it over to you, Dan. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. You're far too kind. You make it sound more glamorous than it was, but it did happen.
Well, when we're on the floor and on the ground, you know, it doesn't sound as glamorous, does it? Or it's not as glamorous. I
It's
do
not as
remember that.
glamorous.
I do remember that from the bakery business, you know, every single day, the grind of getting the orders out on time. And yeah, after you can shine this like pretty picture on it, but in the moment, it can feel like a lot.
Yeah, and it's okay that when there is a great accomplishment to feel like you're being pretty smart for a few minutes, and then you have to move on and get back to business again.
Yeah, tell me about that. We have often laughed about how you feel like you make some really good decisions when you're in the room with your executive team. You got lucky a few times, and then you got a few times that weren't so lucky. What was that all about? Can you share a story?
Yeah. Well, I think it really begins with landing at the right company at the right time. And there are things that we can do to ensure a little bit more that we have those opportunities, but you have to recognize them first and foremost. And obviously, it's always better to land at a growing company if you're looking for opportunities as an employee. Where I landed, the company wasn't yet on a growth curve, but due to some circumstances beyond anybody's planning or control, uh, the company ended up growing. It was kind of a matter of us figuring out how to get out of our own way.
Mm,
And again, I'd love to tell people that this was all part of a grand plan that I had for my career, but truth be told, I set out after leaving the field to just finish my career as an estimator project manager at a big commercial roofing company in the Portland area. And
mhm,
from there, through growth and people moving on, and unfortunately a death or two within the organization,
mm,
among the senior management, it provided opportunities not just for me, but for many of the people in the organization. And
mm.
so, accidental, I mean, it wasn't really accidental, but it also wasn't scripted either.
Oh, of course not. I always say luck is opportunity meets preparation, right? So
Absolutely.
you had prepared yourself in that estimator role and project manager, and you're seeing like these big picture, you're seeing things from a big picture. So I don't know that you're giving yourself enough credit either, mister.
Well, so spending a lifetime, a first career in a family business has its high points and low points for sure.
Oh,
Family
yeah.
business cliches are all true.
Oh,
And then, a certain amount of education before I went back to working in the field. Those things all came together after a good number of years. It was a long journey,
yeah.
but one I enjoyed for the most part at every step of the way. And really, the path I followed is repeatable. And one
Mm,
of the things I like to pass on to folks that are working in the field or working at small businesses or have started their own is it really is possible. I'm not the only person I know with a similar story like this. Uh,
mhm,
it's really about learning everything you possibly can and not being afraid to apply it.
mhm. So you said something earlier about getting out of our own way while you're dealing with a company that's growing really quickly. So we've got business owner founders a lot of times that watch a show in the construction industry, and there is that feeling that they don't need to go out and get work. It's coming. They're inundated with it all the time, as you may or may not have experienced yourself in a boom state. What do you mean by getting out of your own way? What are some tips that our people can take away from that?
This was in our case, this was a fundamentally strong company. It had a lot of great people within it. There was a
Mhm,
lot of tradition and, the concept of this is how we always did things that actually was what was getting in the way of the company moving on.
mm, mhm,
And don't get me wrong, it was a 90-year-old business almost when I joined it. And so it had been in business a long time, very successful and well known in the industry nationally, as it turns out. But when it really got down to it, the company wasn't yet on a growth pattern, though they'd tried.
mm,
Unfortunately, it took a death in the family, so to speak, and a turnover of leadership that really spurred the next step of the way. And it was really about changing the thinking of the company. And
mm,
so one of the things I usually try to pass on to small business owners are don't get stuck in a rut. It'll cost you.
mm,
Don't be foolish and don't subscribe to the flavor of the day, but make sure your company is moving forward at least at the same pace that your competitors are.
okay, yeah, so don't get stuck in a rut. What are some things that we can look for? What does a rut look like or feel like in your past experiences?
Sure. We had a very smart group that would bring ideas to the table, and immediately they'd be shot down without consideration, because it
Mm,
wasn't how things had been done. We'd been in business for 80 plus years, and this is how we always did it. And I see it all the time. And, granted, you go back that many years and there wasn't that much of an internet. So if you weren't cooking up things yourself and having your own ideas organically within the company, you were really stuck. But when you do
Mhm.
have a smart group of people and they are coming together and proposing solutions to challenges, it's worth a listen. And once that culture changed in the company that I was in, we got to experience the growth that we did. There was a group of us, it
Mhm.
certainly wasn't just me. There was a group of us that
Mhm.
took that company from 32 to $97 million, with, certainly some successes and matching stumbles along the way. Truth
Yeah.
be told, the
Uh-huh.
company probably should have been about 250 million, because we still had the issues of not seeing the company necessarily at all times for what it was. And what I mean by that was we had more capability than we were making use of. There was still a propensity of trying to do things the way we'd always done them, even though by the mid 2000s, the construction business and construction industry was changing very rapidly at the time,
Mhm.
and we missed some opportunities. We hit some too. Don't get me wrong, but we certainly missed some opportunities to grow further, profit deeper, bring more people on, and so forth.
Mhm. And I hear that a lot, like, the bigger the company, the more problems we have, so there's more money being left on the table, which is what you experienced as well. Um, Getting stuck in a rut and shutting down ideas can feel I just when you said that, it brought me back to my bakery days, and what I had was a phrase that I told people because I always wanted to hear folks' ideas. Innovation, I feel like, comes from the floor, from the production line, from,
Right.
the technicians, who are doing the work every day. And I had if I didn't follow through on someone's idea, I would say no for now. And they knew that no matter what, I wasn't like shooting it down. It was more like, in this moment, that idea isn't going to work for us. Um, so that just kind of something for our listeners to kind of take away. A no for now could be something, instead of shooting everything down right away. Because I remember coming back to a few ideas later, as we grew.
And the business owner or the leadership of the company have so many things they're trying to keep track of. Operationally, even in a company the size of the one that I ended up running, everybody was still wearing more than one hat. For small business, though, it's even more important for the owner or the entrepreneur or the senior leaders in the company to have this big, like, idea parking lot.
Mhm.
Because when we do tell people, well, no for now, there are things there that make sense to come back to them. And that's a little
Mhm.
bit of that systems thinking thing, right? Sometimes an
Mhm.
idea doesn't work right now because it really doesn't fit into the system. It may not fit into the strategy at this moment either. But we have a way of the world changing, whether we're realizing it or not. And certainly the business environment is ever changing. So those ideas should come back to life. They may be
Mhm.
considered a second time and still not implemented, but they're still in that parking lot somewhere. Because if we
Mhm.
try to, as business leaders, if we try to keep everything in our minds, that's one form of doing it all ourselves. It is not going to fly. It's not
Mhm.
going to, I should say, it's not going to maximize the opportunity that a small business especially has.
Mhm. Are there any other ways that we tend to get stuck in a rut? Shutting down ideas and not looking towards innovation seems to be one that's highlighted here. Is there anything else in your past experiences that you want to share in terms of how people get stuck in ruts?
Yeah, I think a lot of it originates with playing it safe, Amanda.
Mm.
We're making some money, we're bringing some people on board, we've got happy customers. Um, let's just sit where we're at. I see this a fair amount. I
Yeah.
understand it. Our first job as business operators, business owners is keeping the lights on, so to speak. But playing
Mhm.
it safe is counterproductive to the nth degree because everything else is changing around us. We've got to be able to take a few chances here and there, minimizing the risk as we're doing it, but taking some chances to keep our company moving. The old cliche, I believe, is still true, and that is you're growing or dying.
Mm,
In the construction business, it's especially true because if
mm,
we just look at over the past 20 years, if we just look at the cost of materials as a percentage of our
mm.
revenue, and depending
Oh,
on how accounting
yeah.
is done and how people bill out and do their estimating, the inflation of materials would make it look like if our business, even if our business was dropping, that it wasn't. Because
Mhm,
in reality, construction companies tend to sell labor.
mhm,
So
mhm.
we mark up our materials, and I don't want to get too deep into construction accounting, but we have to make sure that we're growing, and we tend to grow with people in the construction business. So if
Yeah.
you're not hiring, you're not, you don't have to be ballooning your office team, but if you're not growing, at least in an organic fashion that keeps pace with inflation as a percentage there, that means you're shrinking and you're losing market share. And once we
Mhm.
get market share in the construction business, the trick is to hang on to it.
Hang on to it. Yep. Wow. You mentioned the business is constantly changing all around us, especially in construction. It tends to shift quite quickly. What's the value in long term planning? Those that have listened to my show before have heard like business plans are a waste of time unless you're getting a loan or an investor. We're all about these strategic plans. So tell me a little bit more about the value of long term planning in your way.
Well, first, I would argue that it's a piece of preparation for the situations where you just mentioned. Construction companies at times do need a loan, even if it's gap
Hmm.
style funding. So having that
True.
strategic plan that you can sit down with today's fairly savvy bankers to speak
Hmm.
about is a nice little thing, backup plan, so to speak, to have in your pocket. But
Yep.
strategic planning is something that I get asked about and have been asked about for many, many years around the value of it because people say, I can't predict what's going to happen next week. Why would
Hmm.
I try to predict what's going to
Exactly.
happen in 7 years?
Hmm.
And I remember some fairly heated discussions around roundtables with construction operators and owners that arguably might be smarter than me. Um, and it getting pretty heated around the value of that. And I remember a response once where somebody said, there's absolutely no value in strategic planning. I said, that's just plain lazy.
Hmm.
The value around strategic planning is having a plan. So there's three things it really forces us to do. The first one is to clarify our vision of where we want our company to go in the first place. It's amazing to me how many people are just, especially small businesses of all kinds,
Hmm.
are just paying the bills
Yep.
and not planning ahead at all. So if you're not planning ahead for where your business is going, you're probably not planning ahead on your financial aspects either. Rainy
Hmm.
day fund, things like that, that small businesses all have to have. So first,
Hmm.
we've got that clarification of vision. The second
Hmm.
thing is that our vision for a company should be the destination. Strategic plan is the map to get there. So
Hmm.
a business operating a strategic or without a strategic plan is similar to taking a summer family vacation with no plans, maps. What happens if your GPS goes down? You get clear to the other side of the country and you've run out of money. It's a great metaphor. It really is for a
Hmm.
business running without a plan. And then the third big aspect of and benefit of having done strategic planning is the accountability that goes along with it.
Hmm.
Business operators and entrepreneurs tend to suffer from shiny object syndrome. The,
What? I
the
have no idea
beauty
what
of
you're talking
having a
about.
plan, the beauty of having a plan is the accountability that comes along with it, especially if there's even a small team surrounding the entrepreneur. First of
Mhm.
all, they know what the plan is. So if the entrepreneur comes back from a convention or something and has this great idea, the first person that says, So tell us where that fits into the plan here, should get the prize. I've
Mhm.
worked for 4 entrepreneurs in
Ooh.
my career, all of them alike,
Mhm.
all guilty of shiny object syndrome on a frequent basis.
Yeah.
So the company's strategy really should be guiding the journey. Once we have that, I'm a 7-year guy. I like to go out the 7 years, back my way back into current reality, and then
Mhm.
plan the strategic initiatives that are needed in that period of time to accomplish those goals. Then we start talking about tactics and the
Mhm.
tactics that have to be applied to current reality, but also as we're working our way through our strategic initiatives, of course, extending our strategy a year at a time as we go forward. And so
Mhm.
those are all aspects of business planning that are generally overlooked. I think Gallup states that less than 10% of companies actually succeed at implementing strategic plans, even if they have them. Well, that might account for the failure rate of a lot of small businesses in America as well.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you. And one of the things that caught my attention, and one of the warning signs that I give folks is, and to get, I would like to give our audience right now, is the tactics piece. Running right to tactics. So you say you need a marketing plan, and then all I see is a list of tactics. So what's the strategy? What's the message? What's the objectives that you're getting to? Kind of highlighting, like, how can we highlight that strategic part that comes before tactics in your mind?
Yeah, dreaming up the strategic plan and to match the journey that the vision is the destination for really comes down to strategy being big picture stuff that tends to be 2 to 7 years down the road. And then in our current lives, we're applying tactics to accomplish those goals.
Mhm.
So it's like the difference between, let's see, what's an example? Difference between business development and sales. Business development, all too often in the construction business, is short-term business development where they're trying to increase sales by chasing down new customers. Where
Mhm.
business development, especially in the construction industry at least, should be planning for acquiring those long-term customers that are going to be required um, for the growth that is the vision included in the vision of the company. Tactics
Mm.
tend to be the things we're doing in the next, you know, 1 day to 18 to 20 months. And after that
Mhm.
planning we're doing then qualifies usually as strategy. There's certainly
Mhm.
exceptions to that, but I think sales versus business development is a good example of something that we should be making sure that they're playing in their own spaces, the people who are doing that. Does that make
Mhm.
sense?
And larger, it's larger buckets
Yes.
versus thin, I'm gonna do this tactic in order to hit on this objective that we have. Yeah, I love that idea there.
We
Um,
we
mhm,
can
go ahead.
apply that to people as well, Amanda. The difference
Okay.
between recruiting and retention. Any company that's
Mm,
growing has to have a plan, a strategy for retaining their people so that as you're bringing in more people required to grow the business, we're making sure as much as we can that we're hanging on to the people that we've got. It's probably the third or fourth biggest mistake that companies of all kinds make.
oh yeah.
Retention, even when people want more money and better benefits, retention is still cheaper than recruiting every day
Mhm.
of the week.
Every day of the week and twice on Sundays. It's so
Exactly.
much cheaper. The how can new or small businesses benefit from this 7-year long-term planning idea that you have here?
Yeah, I think that it's really hard for most small companies to even think forward 7 years. So there's
Mhm,
times I will meet with folks and we'll focus on that first three. If we
mhm,
can get them to year three, then their minds are more acclimated to it. That has been my experience. And then we
Mhm.
can push it out there and start thinking about what the real dream for the company is. There are certainly exceptions to that. I'm working with a small company right now that are all over figuring out what they want to look like in 7 years. They're totally excited and it really energizes me. Uh, the benefits are the same as for a larger company, with one huge exception, and that is the additional weight that is taken off of the entrepreneur because there's a plan written down. When I've worked for entrepreneurs in my career, so much of it was in their heads that there's this distraction piece of what's going on in there. Where most human beings, if we get something out on paper, it's something we don't have to be thinking about all the time. And so the entrepreneur or company leader that already is wearing too many hats gets to take one off and put it on the table. Well, we've all, I mean, the way we've learned that one is by doing it, all of us, correct?
Exactly. It just makes me giggle. How did your unique philosophy towards strategic planning develop? How did this all come to be?
Yeah, it was actually as a result of looking backward, as it turns out.
Hmm.
When I left the company that I was running, um, I took a pretty harsh analysis of my own performance of the company. Because of that, I was able to kind of narrow down what I felt like we didn't do and the help we didn't have. And that led to an analysis of the help we did have and why we didn't get more. I had the
Mm,
privilege of working with probably the biggest consulting firm in America that specialized in architectural engineering and construction companies. And I'll leave them nameless for obvious reasons. But they tended to focus on one or two disciplines. So when we were working on those things, there was times that Rome was burning in the background.
mhm,
Additionally, because we were working on usually financial clarity and things associated
mm,
with execution, project management, and so forth, other things were being ignored, like culture.
mhm,
So the as I was realizing these things, I had an occasion where I was speaking with a former colleague who said, "Yeah, you understand this because you see the world in systems." And it kind of was a light bulb moment for me. I'd
mhm,
already leaned towards focusing on disciplines versus the departments in a company. So
mhm,
that's really the crux of what we do, is looking at companies as the system that it is. And we focus
mhm,
on the 7 summits that are there. So we don't focus on HR, accounting, project management, estimating. We focus on the 7 we believe play a role in every department, and that's vision, leadership, strategy, execution, people, customers, and cash. And
mm,
business owners all the time tell me, I can't watch that many things. I can't keep track of what I'm doing now." And I remind them that they're looking at all 7 of those things every day, whether they realize it or not. What we
mhm.
try to do, Amanda, is put some order to it.
Yeah, and focus.
Yes.
Like, really, right now it's ad hoc, so I'm seeing that you're just bringing people back into those 7 areas, but every piece of the organization needs to watch those 7 areas.
Right. If we only look at departments, let's take accounting, for example, and they're not a part of some of the decisions that are made around project management, especially in a construction company. If these are departments working independent of each other, a change in one place isn't notified in the other. Now, to do
Mm,
this, everybody has to be seeing a bigger picture, the system that the company is, and they don't have to be experts in each other's fields, but they have to have enough of an understanding of the company at large that they can function within their own um, realm without tripping up others. That's the big one. That's what I mean by getting out of our own way.
mhm. Wow. So good. I have a signature question that I usually ask every guest,
Go
And
for it.
it's what essential knowledge do you think our listeners should be aware of today to help them reach their first million in revenue?
Well, probably learn everything you can. As far as
Mhm.
resources go, there's so much more out there now. For book learners, there's great stuff in every category that's out there, leadership especially, and it is something that a lot of people don't understand. So leadership at the forefront, culture, of course, and a lot of it depends on the size of the company.
Mhm.
But nowadays, if you look at community college programs and trade school programs, you can learn anything that you want to learn. And those are necessities for a successful company, especially someone who wants to get to their first million, because you're going to do a lot of it on your own. $1 million company usually isn't very big. In a
Mhm.
construction firm, that might be as small as 8 or 9 people, counting
Mhm.
the men and women in the field. So it really puts the onus of the
Mhm.
building owner or business owner or leader to know as much as they can. It's also nice in that as you're growing and you're bringing talent into your administrative loop in your company, that you know what you need first. Um, in my case, it turns out I was kind of jack of all trades, master of nothing. I had
Mhm.
people around me that were better estimators, better project managers. I had a CFO. I had all these really smart people around me. I was more like the ringleader. And there's
Mhm.
value in that. And you have
Mhm.
to know what your shortcomings are to facilitate that kind of growth in a company. If you don't know what your own shortcomings are, you might be bringing in people that you don't necessarily need. And then that's, the wicked word overhead and so forth that we try to avoid, especially in construction.
Oh my goodness. I heard two really great things that I want to highlight, and hopefully I can find them in my notes. Here we go. Know your shortcomings, so know what you're not good at, and
Yeah.
then hire people that are smarter than you. A lot of times, as entrepreneurs, we like to be the smartest ones in the room, and we hire people to help us with the mundane stuff. And sometimes when we bring in that leader that's got can fill a hole of a shortcoming but also be smarter than us in that area, and let them be, you'd be
Ex-
amazed at what you can see.
Exactly. And the third leg of that stool is
Sure.
using outside expertise.
Mm,
Outside expertise is so important for companies of all sizes. It helps us stay away from groupthink, even if it's a group of one or two. The value
mhm,
of outside consulting is huge. For new businesses or new entrepreneurs or people who are even thinking about it, the thing it really does is um, provides knowledge that you may not have the luxury of even obtaining yourself in the short run.
mhm,
And so it allows the entrepreneur to remain focused on the things that they are good at. The other
mhm,
part that it comes to us is as we're coming up through the business world, we don't know what we don't know.
mhm,
The job of the consultant is to ask questions until they figure out, helping you figure out what you don't know yet. And I think
mhm.
that's some of the most fun is asking those questions and then helping people find those answers. That's good fun. So the outside expertise, no matter what form it takes, is just imperative for new businesses.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. I mean, you can't learn enough, quickly enough to be an expert in everything. So, looking at that the outside availability of experts, yeah, that would be. It's really great, and it's also really hard because the your hard earned money. I know in the bakery business, I had a really hard time hiring folks that were quote unquote experts. I had a really hard time with the idea of having a business coach. I thought it was more like therapy. That was, coaching with you. And I was like, there's no way in heck that I want a therapist anywhere near me right now. I want more profit in my company. Um, so, and then consulting costs a lot of cookies, in my opinion. So it was just like, it was So that's the mind of some entrepreneurs out there in the world. I do have a different mindset now. I have 4 different coaches and a lot of mentors, including yourself, Dan. Thank you so much for being
Thank you.
here. But can you recommend any valuable resources or books or workshops that you think that can help people along this journey?
Sure. Everybody's different. But again, I would look real hard to your local community colleges. They do a
Mm-hmm.
great job with some of the basic business skills that we all need and that shouldn't be taking the time to learn them by trial and error. As far as books
Mm-hmm.
go, for those that are book learners, I have a few favorites. Every entrepreneur should read, of course, The E Myth Revisited by
Mm-hmm.
Michael Gerber. And
Yep.
if you don't see yourself in that book as an entrepreneur, you need to read it again.
Yeah.
And then for new business people, because they're easy reads and they always make a great point, anything written by Patrick Lencioni, his books are all great. They all make a great point. I still refer back to them after having read them many, many years ago. They helped guide my actions in a growing company. And I thought those were all great. And they're a super easy read because for those that don't know, he writes in the form of like business fables. So they're fun
Mm.
to read too. And they're pretty quick. A long airplane ride, you can read one of his entire books, and it's well worth your time every time. As far as others go, there's so many books about culture and leadership out there that I
Mm-hmm.
would recommend. But do a little trial and error. A lot of the things reviews on Amazon give you a pretty good look at those. So those are the big ones. And then when there are business workshops hosted in your local community, give them a look. There's a lot of expertise out there that and folks, experts that want to pass on their knowledge and wisdom, so to speak. And a lot of that is worthwhile. Not all of us are workshop learners. I get that, but usually the ones that don't learn well in workshops tend to be book learners. So there's
Mm-hmm.
something out there, I think, for everybody.
Oh, that's awesome. So if you could change one thing while you were growing that firm, what would it have been?
I would
Sorry,
have put
ending on a
I,
hard one.
I would have actually it's not that hard. I would have put culture ahead of growth first. Rapid growth like that exposed an organization that needed a lot of serious culture work. More specifically, we needed buy-in at what we were trying to do. Unfortunately, we thought we had buy-in until things got tough. We just didn't ask enough questions, Amanda.
Mm. Gosh. I mean, I just don't even, I feel like I could ask you a million additional questions. I want to make sure that you got to say everything that you wanted to say. Is there anything else you'd like to leave our viewers with today?
Not well, yeah. Never think you can't do it. People can do this. People do it all the time, but it isn't going to be easy. The most famous line in the movie about women's baseball is "There's no crying in baseball," right? But
Yeah.
there's many other examples in that movie of quotes that apply to what we're trying to do here, and being focused on the goals and understanding that you can do it. Plan ahead, get the help you need. You can do it. Hire
Mm,
hire the best people and put them in the right seat.
mm. It's so hard to do, but so good when you can do it. So, thank you for giving us your wisdom and sharing your story, Dan. It means so much to me. It means so much to the people here that are listening to us. And viewers, I'll have some links to Dan's resources that he mentioned in the video description later today. And I swear to God, I did not plant him as someone to say, that we love passing on our knowledge and wisdom by giving business workshops. But maybe I owe you $5, Dan, for giving that little cue there. Because for those of you that are ready to make your first or next million, I have a workshop for you. We are doing a brand new workshop. It's for people who feel as though the business plan isn't getting done. Like
Mhm.
what Dan said, it's about strategy. And there's a lot of pieces of strategy that are missing, and they're easy pieces to understand. So I do a 90-minute workshop once a week now. So for those people that are in Bend, Oregon, you can see me live and in person, or you can come in and to one of my virtual ones. The workshop is Profit Acceleration Workshop. That's where I'm going to teach you the downfalls that we have as all business owners, but we're going to
Mhm.
focus on profit and making a profit, making the same amount of profit as $1 million company with even just a fraction of that revenue coming in. So I'll show you how you can do that. Quick and simple steps to increase your lead flow every month, to generate more sales, and learn simple and easy to implement strategies that can add instant cash flow to your business. So there's so much there. That workshop is comprised of crucial information that, had I had it, the bakery story would have had a different ending. So the information that you will leave with will enable you to go back to work and literally outmarket and outsell or outposition your competition if that's what you want to do. I believe that we want to make sure that we can have better lives and that we can afford the people that we need, but also make it where our futures are secure. So there is nothing for sale at that event. It's 100% just profit generating strategies. And so follow that link below and come to the next Profit Acceleration Workshop. So if you're liking what you hear, please remember to subscribe and hit that notification button to stay in the loop of the next episode of Her First Million. So until next time, here's to your success. See you later. Bye.